You ever stop and really look at the folks around you? I mean, asterisk, really asterisk look? See past the clothes, past the circumstances, and maybe catch a glimpse of the story etched on their faces. That's what I want to talk about today. A story that unfolded right under our noses, in a place most folks just pass through on their way to somewhere else. Sacramento, California. Underneath one of those anonymous overpasses, not too far from the hum of a Tesla supercharger station, lived a man named Nathan. Now, Nathan wasn't always there, blending into the concrete and shadows. Time was, Nathan had it all, you know, the whole 9 yards. Grease under his fingernails, yeah, but a sharp mind to match. Reputation for being the guy who could fix anything with an engine, anything with a motor, that others had given up on. Back in Detroit, he was somebody, an engineer at one of the big car companies, spent years knee-deep in blueprints, perfecting engine designs, making sure every vehicle that rolled off his workbench purred like a kitten. His world? Precision, problem solving, that quiet satisfaction of knowing he made things work, made them better. But life, well, life's got a funny way of throwing curveballs, doesn't it? One day, Nathan was part of the team. The next, he was just a number in a layoff. Company downsized, they said, cut costs. Suddenly, all that experience, all that know-how, it didn't seem to matter anymore. He figured he'd bounce back, a guy with his skills. He'd land on his feet. But the weeks turned into months. That savings account started looking mighty thin. And the bills, they just kept on coming. His wife, bless her heart, she couldn't handle the strain. Said her goodbyes. Then the bank came knocking for the house. Nathan, proud as he was, couldn't bring himself to ask for a handout. And when his old pickup truck finally gave up the ghost, well, that was the last piece of his old life just crumbling away. Now his world was that little patch of sidewalk near the supercharger. He'd watch those shiny Teslas pull in, folks plug them in, grab their fancy coffees, never even spare a glance at the guy huddled in the shadows. Nights were rough. That old army blanket, a gift from some kind soul weeks ago, it didn't do much against the California chill. But maybe, just maybe, the cold wasn't the worst part. It was the way folks just looked right through him, like he was invisible, like he was nothing at all. One evening, Nathan's sitting on the curb, chewing on the last bite of a day-old sandwich. Saved it for when the hunger pangs really hit. The charging station was busier than usual. All those sleek cars, drivers tapping impatiently on their phones while they waited for their batteries to top off. You could hear them talking about stocks, business deals, their fancy vacations. A whole different world from the one Nathan was living in. Then, a different sound cut through the night. A car sputtering, struggling to turn over. Nathan recognized that sound instantly. High-end model, maybe one of those early Tesla Roadsters. Its system was clearly having a hard time rebooting. A little crowd started to gather, muttering amongst themselves. The owner, he was on his phone, pacing back and forth, looking mighty frustrated. Nathan just let out a sigh, shaking his head. He could fix it. Just from the sound, he knew exactly what was wrong, but who was gonna listen to him? Helping folks before hadn't exactly landed him back on his feet. He turned away, pulling that threadbare blanket tighter around himself. Maybe it was best to just let it go. Let the rich guy call his tow truck, wait it out like everyone else. But then, over the low murmur of the crowd, Nathan heard the owner curse under his breath. Damn it, I got somewhere to be. This ain't supposed to happen. There was something familiar about that voice, something distinct. Nathan risked a glance up. The man's face was mostly hidden by the glow of a nearby streetlight, but then he shifted and his profile came into view. It was him, Elon Musk. Now, here's where the mind starts playing tricks, right? Would anyone in their right mind believe a homeless fella could help one of the wealthiest people on the planet? Nathan's fingers twitched. He knew what was wrong with that car. It wasn't the battery, and it sure wasn't some random glitch. The engine startup sequence had stalled, right in the middle. He'd seen it before, in those high-performance electric vehicles with all that complex software. If the system didn't get a proper hard reset, well, it was dead in the water. But again, that voice in his head, who's gonna listen to a guy in a tattered hoodie who hasn't seen a razor in weeks? He shifted his weight on the curb, still debating. Maybe at asterisk was asterisk best to just let it go. Let the billionaire deal with his billionaire problems. Then he heard Musk curse again, a little louder this time. What the hell is taking them so long? Something snapped in Nathan. He didn't want anything. No handouts, no attention. But walking away from a problem he knew he could solve? That just wasn't him. Not the old him anyway. Before he could talk himself out of it for the 10th time, Nathan pushed himself up off that curb and shuffled across the parking lot. The small group of onlookers barely even registered him as he approached the stalled car. "It's not the battery," Nathan said, his voice surprisingly calm, surprisingly firm, heads turned. A couple of folks gave him the once-over, their eyes taking in his worn-out sneakers, that long, untamed beard. Musk, still on the phone, didn't even acknowledge him at first. Nathan took another step closer. "It's the power management system. The car didn't finish its startup sequence. You need a hard reboot." Musk finally looked up. His eyes scanned Nathan quickly, assessing him, calculating. "And you know this how?" Nathan just crossed his arms, the old engineer in him surfacing. Used to be an engineer, worked with high voltage drive systems for over 15 years. A pause hung in the air. The small crowd was still watching, waiting for Musk to wave him off, tell him to take a hike. Instead, Musk just raised an eyebrow. "And you think you can fix it?" Nathan just gave a small shrug. "I know I can." Musk stared at him for a beat longer. Then he reached into his pocket and held out his key card. "All right, show me." The moment that card hit his palm, something clicked back into place for Nathan. Muscle memory took over. He opened the door, slid into the driver's seat, tapped the brakes. The touchscreen flickered, the software trying to recover, but it was stuck in a loop. Nathan went to work. First, he forced a manual shutdown, bypassing those onboard diagnostics that had frozen up. Then, with a specific combination of brake and accelerator inputs, he triggered a secondary restart, one of those deep system resets most Tesla owners probably didn't even know existed. The car powered down completely, dead silent for 3 long seconds, not a sound. Then the dashboard flickered back to life. The system rebooted, running smooth as butter, like nothing had ever gone wrong. Nathan just let out a breath he didn't even realize he'd been holding. Should be good now. Musk leaned in, glancing at the screen. He tapped a few settings, then turned back to Nathan. That was impressive. Nathan just stepped back, wiping his hands on his worn jeans. "Wasn't that hard?" Musk gave a small smirk. "Maybe not for you." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a neatly folded stack of bills. "Here, for your time." Nathan stiffened. This was exactly why he hadn't wanted to help in the first place. He didn't want charity, didn't want to be just another story about some homeless guy getting a few pity dollars from a billionaire. He shook his head. "I don't want your money." Musk seemed genuinely surprised. "Then what asterisk do asterisk you want?" Nathan glanced around at the people still staring, some whispering to each other. He felt that old familiar weight in his chest, the weight of being ignored, overlooked, discarded. He swallowed hard. "Nothing. Just glad I could help." Musk studied him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then after a pause, he just nodded. Nathan turned, ready to disappear back into the night, back to his invisible life. But before he could take another step, Musk called after him, "What's your name?" Nathan hesitated for just a second, then looked back over his shoulder. "Nathan." Musk gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Good work, Nathan." Little did Nathan know that wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot. It was only the very beginning of something truly unexpected. Nathan didn't expect a thing to come of that night. He figured by morning he'd wake up, shake off the stiffness in his back, and just go about surviving the day, like always. Maybe find a leftover bite to eat. Maybe fix another broken trinket for a few spare bucks. Just another day of blending into the background. But that's not what happened. He woke up to the sound of voices. Too many voices. Blinking against the early morning sunlight, he sat up and realized he wasn't alone. A whole little cluster of people stood at the edge of the parking lot, some with cameras, others with microphones, news crews. Nathan's stomach just twisted into knots. He pulled his blanket tighter around his shoulders, staying still, hoping they weren't there for him. But then he saw him. A woman in a bright blazer pointed, and suddenly they were all moving toward him. "Nathan!" a reporter practically yelled, ducking past a charging Tesla. "Can you tell us what happened last night? What did Elon Musk say to you? Did he offer you a job?" The questions came fast, a barrage of noise, cameras rolling, all those eyes locked on him like he was some kind of novelty act. Nathan's pulse was pounding in his ears. He just wanted to get up, walk away, disappear, but where could he go? The whole lot seemed surrounded, and the thought of running just made him look guilty of something he hadn't even done. He didn't ask for this. Then, cutting right through all that chaos came a different voice, calm but authoritative. native. All right, that's enough. The crowd parted just enough for Nathan to see him. Elon Musk, dressed in dark jeans and a jacket, hands in his pockets, standing there like this was just another Tuesday morning for him. The cameras immediately pivoted in his direction. "Mr. Musk," a reporter called out, "is it true you're offering Nathan a position at Tesla?" Nathan's breath just caught in his throat. Wait, what? Musk's gaze flickered toward Nathan for a split second, then back to the reporters. "We'll discuss that privately." Then he turned directly to Nathan. "Come with me." Nathan hesitated. His brain was still trying to catch up with everything that was happening. But with all those cameras rolling and reporters firing off more questions, he figured anywhere was better than sitting on that cold pavement being interrogated by the press. So without another word, he stood up and followed Musk. But the moment they stepped into that sleek black Tesla waiting right there at the curb, Nathan realized he wasn't just leaving behind a crowd. He was stepping into something much, much bigger than he could have ever imagined. Nathan sat stiffly in the passenger seat as the Tesla glided away from that supercharger lot. The inside smelled of rich leather and brand new technology. A whole universe away from the streets he'd been just barely surviving on. Musk didn't say anything right away. He just drove, his fingers tapping lightly against the steering wheel. The silence stretched on, giving Nathan way too much time to let his mind race. Finally, Musk glanced over. "So," he said, his voice casual, "you really didn't want the money?" Nathan just let out a slow breath. "I didn't help you for that." Musk nodded, like he was considering something deep. "You could have taken it, could have walked away and never thought about that car again." Nathan turned his head to look out the window as the Tesla smoothly merged onto the highway. "I don't fix things for a payout, I fix them because it's what I do." Musk gave a small smirk. "That's rare." The Tesla sped down the highway, passing towering buildings and those sprawling office parks that seemed to stretch on forever. Nathan probably should have asked where they were headed, but something inside him told him it didn't really matter anymore. He was already in it, whatever it was. After a few more minutes, Musk pulled up to a security gate. The sign ahead, all sleek and modern, read, "Tesla Engineering Headquarters, Palo Alto, California." Nathan's chest just tightened up. He hadn't walked into a facility like this in years. Musk flashed his badge at the guard booth. The barrier lifted, and in just a few moments, they were inside. Glass, steel, and the hum of innovation surrounded them. Musk parked near a side entrance and just stepped out. "Come on." Nathan followed, his heart pounding in his chest. He felt so out of place. He still hadn't shaved. He probably still smelled like the street, and his shoes definitely had holes in them. The security guard at the door gave him a long look, but didn't say a word as Musk just waved him inside. They walked through a long hallway lined with project boards covered in complex diagrams and sketches of Tesla's upcoming models. Engineers in those Sharp Company polo shirts passed by, some casting curious glances at Nathan. Finally, Musk stopped outside a glass-walled lab. Inside, a team of engineers were huddled around what looked like a half-assembled electric motor, deep in some kind of intense discussion. Musk just pushed the door open and gestured toward a table in the center of the room. "Here's the deal," he said, his voice direct. "This motor has been giving my team hell for weeks. Diagnostics keep failing, and nobody can figure out why. They're about ready to just scrap the whole system and start over." Nathan's eyes were locked on that machine. Even from a distance, he could tell it wasn't some standard issue motor. It was something new, experimental. Musk folded his arms across his chest. "I want to see what you can do." A hush fell over the lab. The engineers exchanged glances, some clearly looking skeptical. Nathan could feel their doubt hanging in the air. A homeless guy off the street standing in the middle of Tesla's research division. One of them, a sharp-looking woman in a black polo shirt, spoke up first. "You want him to fix what we couldn't?" Musk didn't even blink. "I want to see if we've overlooked something." Nathan just stepped forward, trying to ignore the weight of their stares. His fingers almost hovered over the machine. He could almost feel the problem before even touching it. He turned to the nearest engineer. "You guys check the inverter software?" The woman frowned slightly. "Of course, multiple times." Nathan just nodded. Then the issue isn't in the software. He reached out and tapped the motor's casing. It's mechanical. Something's jamming the cooling flow. Musk raised an eyebrow, a hint of intrigue in his eyes. Show me. Without hesitation, Nathan grabbed a nearby wrench and loosened a few bolts, carefully peeling back the outer casing. Inside, the sleek copper coils gleamed under the lab's fluorescent lights. He ran his fingers gently along the edge of the coolant manifold, then stopped. There it was, a small piece of debris, no bigger than a fingernail, wedged right in one of the ports. Nathan carefully pulled it out and held it up for everyone to see. This, he said, his voice quiet but certain. This is your problem. The room just fell silent. The woman who'd questioned Musk took the tiny fragment, examining it closely. Her eyes widened slightly. It must have come loose during assembly. Another engineer muttered almost to himself. We ran a dozen software diagnostics. None of them would have caught that. Musk just grinned, a genuine impressed grin. But he did. Nathan just stepped back again, rubbing his hands nervously on his jeans. Like I said, I fixed things. Musk nodded slowly, his gaze still fixed on Nathan. Yeah, he said thoughtfully, you do. But Nathan wasn't ready for what Elon Musk was about to say next. Not in a million years. This was where the story took that truly shocking turn. Nathan barely had a chance to even process what had just happened in that lab before Musk turned to those stunned engineers and just said, plain as day, give him a workstation. A few of them hesitated, looking around at each other, but when Elon Musk spoke, people tended to listen. The woman who challenged Nathan earlier, the one whose name tag read A. Patel, she just sighed softly and gestured toward an open station tucked away in the corner of the lab. I'll set him up. Nathan just followed her, still feeling the weight of those curious stares on his back. He still felt like he didn't belong there. Not in those polished halls, not surrounded by all those brilliant minds in their branded Tesla Polos, not with his worn-out clothes and a past he hadn't even begun to make peace with. Patel handed him a sleek tablet. We've got another motor running hot over in R&D. The cooling system sounds fine on the diagnostics, but it keeps overheating after about 5 minutes of high stress. If you're as sharp as Musk thinks you are, you'll find the issue. Nathan just let out a slow breath and rolled up the sleeves of his faded hoodie. This was his language. He scanned the data on the tablet, his brain shifted into high gear. The system logs looked solid, no faults in the coolant flow, but that temperature kept climbing and climbing. Why? He stared at the specs, his eyes darting over the numbers, and then something clicked. The heat dispersion rate. It was off, not because of a mechanical failure, but because the materials themselves weren't handling the heat transfer properly. He turned to Patel. What's the alloy mix in the cooling plates? She frowned slightly. Standard composite blend. We've used it for years. Nathan shook his head. Then that's your problem. It's not dispersing the heat fast enough. The motor isn't overheating because of a defect. It's overheating because the materials can't keep up with the load. Patel's eyes widened just a fraction. You're saying it's a design flaw? Nathan just nodded matter-of-factly. You need a different heat-resistant compound. Something with a higher thermal transfer rate. Musk, who had been listening in from across the room, just grinned again, that same impressed look on his face. The engineers around them started murmuring, some pulling up new schematics on their computers, others already running simulations based on what Nathan had just said. Patel turned back to him, her expression a mix of disbelief and respect. How the hell do you notice all this? Nathan hesitated. He didn't really like talking about before, but for the first time in a long time, he wasn't being ignored. He ran a tired hand over his unshaven face. I spent 15 years in automotive engineering, designed drive systems, worked with high voltage propulsion. It's in my blood. Musk nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes, and then Nathan exhaled, forcing himself to say the words he'd been carrying for so long. And then, I lost everything. The lab just went quiet again. You could have heard a pin drop. Musk just studied him, his gaze intense. Bad luck, he finally said, his voice low, or bad decisions. Nathan met his gaze directly. Both. There was no pity in Musk's eyes, just assessment, calculation. Then Musk said the words that would change Nathan's life forever. Come work for me. Nathan just blinked, his mind trying to process what he'd just heard. What? Musk just gestured around the busy lab. You just solved 2 problems in under an hour that some of the smartest people here have been stuck on for weeks. You don't belong on the street, Nathan. You belong here. The words hit him like a freight train. He'd spent so long believing his value had expired that the world had just passed him by. But here he was, standing in the very heart of Tesla, providing to some of the brightest minds in the industry that he still had it. His throat tightened up. I don't have a resume, no address, no? Musk just waved his hand dismissively. I don't give a damn about that. You've got skills and you don't quit. That's all I need to know. Nathan swallowed hard, his hands shaking, not from the cold anymore, but from something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. He just nodded. All right. Musk gave a small, almost wolfish smirk. Good. You start Monday. But as Nathan would soon find out, getting the job was only half the battle. The real challenge was proving he deserved to keep it. Monday came fast. Nathan showed up at Tesla's headquarters with nothing but the clothes on his back and the heavy weight of expectation pressing down on his shoulders. They gave him a security badge, a clean workstation, a fresh set of tools. For the first time in years, he had a place to be, a reason to wake up in the morning. But those old doubts, they didn't just vanish. As he sat at his sleek desk staring at the complex interface of the Tesla engineering system, his hands just hesitated over the keyboard. What if he couldn't keep up? What if those years on the street had dulled his instincts? What if he just failed? But then Patel dropped a stack of design reports on his desk and just said, "You ready?" And just like that, Nathan got to work. The first few days were a battle, no doubt about it. He had to prove himself, not just to Musk, but to the entire team. There were those sideways glances, those skeptical looks, those whispered conversations that stopped abruptly when they thought he wasn't listening. But Nathan didn't have time for doubt. He just did what he did best. He solved problems. A tricky software glitch in the energy recovery system fixed. An issue with the regenerative braking algorithm identified and resolved. A brand new prototype battery overheating under high stress. Pinpointed the flaw and suggested a simple, elegant solution. One by one, with each problem he tackled, he started earning their respect. By the second week, Patel wasn't just handing him assignments. She was actively asking for his input, seeking out his perspective. By the third week, Musk pulled him aside and said, with that direct gaze of his, "You're one of the sharpest engineers I've got, Nathan." And by the fourth week, he held that first paycheck in his calloused hands. It wasn't really about the money, not anymore. It was about what that piece of paper represented. It meant he wasn't invisible anymore. It meant he wasn't broken beyond repair. It meant that even after losing absolutely everything, he still had something valuable to give to the world. That night, instead of heading back to that cold sidewalk near the supercharger, Nathan checked into a small motel. He took the longest, hottest shower of his life, scrubbing away years of dirt and exhaustion. And when he finally looked at himself in the mirror, for the first time in a long, long time, he recognized the man staring back. Months later, he stood outside a modest little apartment complex in Palo Alto. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. A place with walls that kept out the cold, a door he could lock, a key he held in his own hand. As he stepped inside, he couldn't help but think about how close he'd come to just fading away, to becoming another forgotten face. All it had taken was one night, one small decision to stand up, to speak out, to take a chance. And now he wasn't just surviving, he was back. Because sometimes life knocks you down so hard you forget who you are. But if you're willing to fight for it, willing to take that shot when it finally comes your way, you might just get everything back. And maybe, just maybe, even a little bit more.